So that's the way that I would approach crossing that boundary between, okay, we're talking, we're having fun, and now let's start, as the 80s song goes, let's get physical.
Let's get physical.
Hey guys, Bobby Rio here. I am with Rob Judge.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Rob and I have a special video today because we want to talk about something I've been getting flooded with questions about. Guys emailing us saying that they went out with a woman one or two times. Things went well. A lot of these guys even, kissed the girl, or they got physical, maybe not slept with her, but they had enough physical intimacy where all the signs were saying it was going well. And then maybe the second or third date comes, they go to set it up, and she's like, she starts getting wishy-washy, and they kind of, press her, and she winds up giving them the, I just don't feel it, or I'm not looking for something right now. So normally, Rob and I talk about the game and, you can't be the nice guy and whatnot. But this is something different, right? This isn't about these guys showing too much interest, because a lot of times they've only been with her a couple dates. So they haven't blown it, through too much texting or being too much of a nice guy. So what else is going on? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So, Rob, I want to start off with you because, I've also always mentioned that, not only were you one of the most prolific pickup artists back in the day, back when, we use that term, we don't use that term anymore, but you also went through a period where you were going out on Tinder dates for a couple years, right? You were just, every time I talked to you, you had a new date, you were dating multiple girls at the same time. I know now you're in a serious relationship, but before that time, you were getting a lot of experience on these dates. And I want to talk about what your mindset was going into them. I kind of want to dig in to maybe find some of the mistakes guys are making, and also some of the things that they can do to get better results when they are going out with women. So you start off with the mindset you have going into a date.
Sure, yeah. And just to circle back to when you were explaining what we're going to go into in this video, understand that everything I'm talking about here came from me making every single mistake a guy could make. Yeah, I went on a lot of dates. I used to get a lot of dates even before, the pre-Tinder days, when I would just go out and meet girls at bars and nightclubs. So I probably at this point in my life, I've gone on literally at this point probably thousands of dates. But blows my mind how much money I probably spent on alcohol and dates and stuff over the years. But through all that, I've been in every situation, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's very frustrating when you go out with a girl, everything seems to be on, things seem to be going really well, and then all of a sudden it's like the off key on the piano. And if it only happens like once or twice, yeah, you could rationalize, okay, maybe she got busy, maybe her career took over. But this was something I saw again and again and again for a while until I figured out what was going wrong. And I think a lot of guys, watching, maybe there are situations where the girl legitimately get busy or whatever. But I would say, if you're watching this and you've heard that more than once, chances are that you need to pay close attention to what we're going to explain, because I understand the solution to that. And the solution is pretty simple, right? You have to balance all that attraction with a connection. She needs to feel like she's invested not only a little bit of intimacy, maybe kissing you or touching you, or, in that aspect, because that's always a good investment to get from a woman. But also there should be an investment where she's telling you a little bit more about herself, telling you about her life, telling you what her childhood was like, telling you why she moved to the city that she's living in now. These personal details, this is what, when she walks away from the date and all that attraction, all those good feelings, those are kind of going to fade, right? It's almost like getting drunk. Like when you're drunk, it's super fun, it's great, you're having a lot, but the next morning, sometimes, you even regret, oh man, I shouldn't have drank that much. And in a lot of ways, that's how attraction is to a woman. If all you do is just pump her buying temperature, make her laugh, tease her, do all the things Bobby and I talk about in a lot of our videos, that stuff is going to work great to make the date fun, and it could end up even with you making out with her, maybe even going home with her. But the problem is that when she wakes up the next day or she thinks about you a couple days later and you're trying to set up that second date, if she hasn't invested any sort of connection or any sort of personal history into that date, you're just going to be the fun guy that is easy to forget.
Yeah. And, it's funny when I do coaching calls with some of my clients and, we walk through that sort of scenario. a question I always ask them at some point is, because a lot of times they'll be telling me I did this and I was telling her this and I was telling her that story you told me to tell her. And, they'll give me like a whole list of things that they did. Right. And one of the questions I always say, well, what did you learn about her? What did she tell you? And then they kind of get quiet and I'm like, did you do all the talking? Did you? And I'm like, they don't realize a lot of times if she's not talking, if she's not like, attraction, right? Chemistry is a reaction to each other, right? And meaning if she's like flirting with you and telling you stories and opening up to you and you're reacting positively to her, she feels a chemistry towards you, right? Same thing when she's reacting positive to you. But if it's only you doing all the things and her not, that also kind of kills it. And I think you brought that up, and I see it all the time with guys that I work with where they're not letting her put in the effort. So I guess jumping off of that, what do you do to get a woman investing more on a date? When you go in, because I know I've listened to you talk, and I know you've got a ton of good storytelling techniques, and I know that your humor and your flirting is all fine. I'm curious about how you get a girl to do these things. How do you get her putting some initiative into the interaction?
That's a great question. That's one that guys so rarely ask. And I think that's why this is a question that comes up so much. And one of the easiest ways is to apply what I call like giving a girl bandwidth, right? Bandwidth is like, that blank space for her to paint her picture on. Like you said, like guys, a lot of times they get good at flirting, at talking, they start developing their charisma, their social skills. And it is like an addicting thing to get this immediate response where you're doing things. And I know for me, for a guy who's introverted and kind of dorky, when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to take this, to the next level. And it was almost cartoonish in the way that I would joke around with girls and flirt with them. But the problem is, and I'm sure I come up on these videos, very high energy. I've seen some kind of like coked up. The problem with that, when you're super high energy like that, is that you're not giving the other person some bandwidth. Sometimes when I watch videos of me and you, Bobby, I'm like, man, I should just shut the fuck up and let Bobby talk. And the problem is that I feel like a lot of guys fall into that category, even guys like me who were formerly introverted. And so one of the things I always remind myself whenever I'm on a date is to let there be some quote unquote awkward silences. Let there be a pause. I don't need to fill in every moment with flirting and banter, and let her fill it in. Let her go into her head and ask me a question or think of something funny to tell me. So, giving her that bandwidth, that is really like step one for creating that sort of connection.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think a lot of times guys do that is it's sort of a nervous energy, right? And we both do it sometimes when we're on doing a video together, because you have this like nervousness of sort of performing. And a lot of times when you get in that mode, I know I feel myself get into it sometimes where I'm like, oh, I got to just talk on camera. I got to talk when I'm doing a lecture in front of an audience. And I can remember back in the day being the same way with girls, where it was like this nervous energy takes over where I feel like I've got to keep talking and saying and keeping her attention. And a lot of guys fall into that. And I think it's a great piece of advice to just step back from it. What kind of things, though, would you say is ideal for like, so if she's going to leave a date, right, and think about you the next day and go, oh, that was a good date. I don't want to say conversation topics, but like what type of things would she have contributed to the conversation where she's going to associate a better, feel like she knows you a little bit more and feel like you actually know her and you're liking any of the girls that are talking,
That's a really good question, and I'm actually gonna step back, take a step back, and go bigger picture here. The mindset when you're walking into that date, it should be a mindset of curiosity. That was one thing about me that I sort of had naturally because of the fact that I was so obsessed with getting better at improving my social skills, getting better at essentially dating, that I was always just naturally curious because I did genuinely want to see how a girl was going to react. Aside from the fact that I'm just a person who I like, I like reading fiction, that kind of thing. So I look at everyone like they're a character, and I like learning people's personal histories, hearing different tidbits about them, hearing their stories. That was something that, whether I'm meeting a girl or I just meet, a someone, random person. It could be an older person, younger person, a man or woman. I'm always interested to hear the stories. So having that just natural curiosity, I think, is really important for guys. Like you said, Bobby, I think so many guys go into dates thinking, okay, I need to perform, I need to do this, I need to attract her. And yeah, like some of that is okay. Absolutely. You should be going in cognizant of, how to present yourself attractively and that kind of thing. But also too, don't lose sight of the fact that you should also be coming into this date curious about her, wanting to know more about her. And what's good about that is that naturally aligns guys with asking appropriate questions. Like if a girl's talking about something I don't really care about and I'm not curious about, I'm not going to sit there and pretend I'm curious and be like, oh, tell me more about that thing I don't care about. But if she brings up something that I'm interested in, or maybe it's a hobby of mine, or maybe it's just something I want to know more about, that's going to lead me naturally to ask the right questions, to hone in on the things. And the thing is that, like, when you ask those questions and when you're talking to a girl and communicating with a girl with that natural curiosity, that's something that you can't fake. That's something that she's gonna tune into too, and she's gonna feel like, oh man, like, as she's sharing more, she's gonna enjoy it more as well, because she's gonna feel like you care about what she's saying.
No, definitely. As I'm hearing that, what you're saying, I'm agreeing 100%. The thing I want to sort of clarify, or the concern I have for guys listening to this, might be them going deep into interview mode, because they're like, well, you told me I got to ask her questions and be curious about her. So how do you stop it from getting that interview mode of like the guys going out on their next date and saying, so so tell me about where you grew up and what did you like to do when you were a little kid? Because I understand what you're saying, but there is that fine line of going too much into Q&A with a girl and not creating like the vibe. So is there any tips for guys circumventing their way through these sort of questions and this sort of curiosity about her, where they don't get trapped in interview mode? In interview mode, for guys that don't know the term, is when you're sort of like on a job interview, on a date, where you're just like grilling her with questions and she's grilling you with questions.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because sometimes I forget that I almost assume that guys understand what I mean when I say curious. Because if you notice, I didn't really say to grill her with questions, right? Because you can be curious and you can find out more about her without asking questions. And as a quick example, just make an assumption about her. Like, say she tells you something. Say you do ask her a question. You say, oh, like, so aside from being an accountant, what else are you into? And she says, oh, I like running, and I also I don't know, I play the guitar, right? And you can just sit there, give her a little pause, and be like, yeah, I kind of figured that you would say that. I don't know. I get this like creative sort of active vibe from you, and then that lets you build that vibe that's attractive. So it's not just simply, oh, I'm curious, so let me keep asking her questions. Instead, it's listening to what she says and then reacting to it, and you can respond to it with statements. You can respond to it with playful assumptions. You can respond to it in a teasing way. And that's where all the stuff that Bobby and I teach about attraction, it comes back in. When you combine both and you balance both, that is the sweet spot on a date. When she's talking to you about the different aspects of her life and her personality and her lifestyle and all these different things, and you're bantering with her, you're doing it in a playful way, you're being fun about it, that is going to create that sweet spot of where she feels attracted to you, but she also feels like, okay, I have like some investment in this guy. This guy's getting to know me. This guy cares about what I have to say, and I care about what he has to say. So that's where that sweet spot is.
Yeah, definitely. And, talking about the sweet spot and whatnot. And you kind of made a good point, and I want to reinforce it because you went over it really fast, is that it's your guys' reaction to each other, right? So everything you guys are saying, always keep in mind, like, she's going to be most interested in the conversation when it's like a directly, like what you said, you telling her what you think of her, because then it becomes curious, right? She can now it's a unique conversation because what you think of her is going to be different than what any other guy thinks of her, right? If you tell her, oh, I totally see you as the type who would be actively running, you're giving her unique information, meaning like she's not getting that same conversation for somebody else. Whereas if she's just telling you stuff and you're listening and then you're just telling her stuff about yourself, that's, that's like a generic type of conversation. But when you insert yourself in there, like you were giving an example, that's when you're creating more of a sense of chemistry, a sense of connection, because now it's the two of you reacting to each other rather than you just performing for her or her performing for you. It's sort of this reaction. And I just wanted to point that out because I think that is a big part of what separates interview mode from, attractive conversation is always bringing it back to the two of you.
Exactly. And like one thing that just to put a cap on that or to just explain this further, because I think that's such a great point, is you can do that. There's so much when you're talking, that when you're responding to it, that there's so much subtext there that's going to come off attractive. And then just go back to like what you're talking about with the a girl was a runner, right? And I remember this was an exact conversation I had on a date once. A girl said, "Oh yeah, I'm into running," and I love running. Like I've been running since I've been in high school. I ran in college, so running is something that like I obviously love. I could talk about it, for hours, if someone doesn't stop me. So I remember. She said that, and I actually went the other way. I went the opposite direction. I was like, "Oh, you're a runner?" I was like, "See, I would have never guessed because you're wearing those stilettos, and tomorrow, how are you gonna be able to run? How you get your workout in if you're up in these stilettos tonight? Your feet are gonna be just burning, And then. So what that does is the subtext there shows that like I understand running. I obviously do running too. I don't come out and say, "Oh, you like running? I like running too." That's in the subtext. So it's kind of like what you talk about, Bobby. In media ras, where rather than going through all the formalities of like, "Oh, you like running? I like running." So, and then you're going back and forth, "Oh, you're for all these years, blah, blah, blah." Like clearly, if I could look at stilettos and I kind of know like, oh, like that's going to hurt your feet. Like, that's going to be hard for you to run tomorrow. It almost makes it like I wear stilettos, but I don't. But I mean, so sometimes like, if you're wearing uncomfortable shoes or, you're up, whatever. I know that like your feet are like, obviously like that's going to be a huge thing. So just having that understanding and commenting on things and responding to her, that just allows you not only to get to know her better, but she's also going to in turn get to know you better and get to know you better in a fun way, not in the interview mode way.
Yeah, definitely. I want to do a couple rapid fire questions. Probably put you on the spot here to come up with answers, but if you had to name one topic if you could give one topic that here's another way to phrase it. If there was one topic you couldn't talk about with a girl, which one would be the one you would miss the most? Meaning, if you had to go on a date and I took one topic from your potential topics, which one would hurt your game the most to not have that available?
Oh man, there's a couple of them that come to mind, but probably I would say just rapid fire. I would say probably if I couldn't talk about funny sort of self-deprecating moments from like, middle school or high school, where I could kind of just tell like a funny anecdote or something funny that happened to me back in my childhood that revealed something about me, that would be very problematic for my for getting to know a woman. Because I just feel like so much of that, like that's something I just realized that if you get good at telling stories and everyone has them, these funny sort of quirky anecdotes from, middle school, elementary school, high school, even maybe when you started, working in the real world, whatever it was, college, we all have these funny anecdotes. And by learning how to tell those in an attractive way and sharing them, and then a woman sharing some of her anecdotes, I mean, that, like I said, like that's like this, exactly what I was talking about before. That's the sweet spot of where you're joking around. And self-deprecation is good, not in a, "Oh, I'm a loser" sort of way, but, "Oh man, like I'm like, how I know about blah, blah, blah thing." Kind of like just like when I started, we got on this video, just like I said, like I don't sit there and present myself as like, "Oh, I'm the almighty guru and I just knew all this." I learned all this from hilarious and pretty embarrassing moments of me screwing up a bunch of dates. And that's how I'm here. And that, and me saying that, I think is, well, not only is it true, but the reason I have no problem pointing that out is because it also makes you easier to relate to. It makes the person on the other end feel like, "Oh, okay, like this guy is like me," or and so when you're telling stories like that, present yourself and maybe like instead of a funny, humorous way, and it doesn't present yourself as like, "Oh, I'm the best. I'm like, sort of narcissistic bravado." It just allows a woman to open up too, and she'll tell some vulnerable moments in her own life, and it just creates this really great vibe where two people are just not trying to be something they're not, instead of just being real with each other.
Yeah, great point. It establishes a few things, right? You mentioned the word vulnerability. You and I talk about the idea of cool vulnerability, right? Versus, overly dramatic vulnerability. Cool vulnerability, right? It allows her to open up. It allows her to feel like she knows you. It allows you to humanize, three-dimensionalize yourself. So you're not just this guy in a bar or this guy that she's talking to at dinner. She now has these things to, like, when she goes home and she's thinking about you, she remembers that, that funny story that you told her about, your first kiss, or she remembers, these different bits of information. And not only that, but she has also revealed these things to you, right? She told you how when she was a little girl, she did this or she did that. And now that's that investment, right? Now you're not just some guy that was talking the whole time. Now you're this guy that knows these things about her that she doesn't tell that many people, right? Rapid fire question number 2, texting in between dates, right? So you go on a date with a girl, date went well. You make plans for like Friday night. It's now a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
What do you in the very beginning of dating? What is your philosophy on that? Should you text her a couple times in between now and then? Should you wait till the day of the date? What do you do in terms of texting between dates?
Yes, absolutely. You should be texting her in between dates. It's just fun, playful stuff. Because it doesn't have to all be logistics at that point. It could be so if something you saw, like, oh, hey, I saw this funny thing, remind me of you. Or it can even just be something that doesn't necessarily remind her of you, but you're like, oh man, I was just in Starbucks and this guy did this crazy thing, or like I saw this thing. Whatever it is, but you're giving her a little bit of commentary, a little bit of glimpse into your life. Because keep in mind, like you're on her mind now. So when you give her these little breadcrumbs in a non-needy way, again, you're not saying, oh, hey, how was your day going? What's up? Did you get home safe? Because those are all needy texts. Like, guys think they're asking that because they're being like, I'm being a gentleman. I want to make sure she got home safe. But like, are you really that concerned about that she didn't get home safe? Like, please. No, it's that you want to get the affirmation, like, oh, yes, like we're, I still like you. We were still texting. I'm not going to ghost you. That's why guys do those things. So don't be one of those guys, because like she's seen that a million times. What she hasn't seen is a guy who can playfully make her smile at work, make her laugh a little bit. And then he doesn't want anything. He's not then like, oh, hey, so just wanted to confirm the date for Friday, because like at the end of the day, she already told you she's going to be there on Friday. So you're joking around with her. You don't need to keep reminding her. And it's another thing I just want to point out a caveat too. It's also important that while it's good to have inside jokes and to remember things that you guys talk about, especially if it's significant things, you also don't want to make it seem like you're keeping a scorecard or keeping notes of every little thing. Like I've had clients that go home and they'll write down every little thing, and they'll send you these texts that try to like shoehorn in like 8 stupid jokes that were related to things that she talked about, and that stuff that's not attractive, because if she feels like that, like, oh, I was just opening up, I was having fun, and he was sitting there taking notes, or he was remembering too much, you just come off like, you're desperate, you're trying too hard, or it just signals all the wrong things. So yeah, you can remember the high points, you remember a couple of inside jokes, maybe you had a nickname for her, or something kept coming back up. That stuff's fine, but don't like drill into these like super minor details and oh, like, I remember you said you liked this thing, and
yeah, no.
Creep her out. Yeah.
I see that all the time with clients where they're like, because, we do stress, like send something that, references the date or an inside joke. It's always good to do that, but you can't force it, right? Like if she casually mentioned, like that some random fact, and then you like have to figure out how to bring that in, that's not going to work. It's going to hurt you, right? On the other hand, if you gave the example of you making fun of the woman in the girl in high heels or stilettos, and talking about her running the next day, right? And like maybe that became a little thing, you were joking and she's laughing about it, and then you came across a video of some like runner in high heels or something, and you sent her like a thing, like hey, I hope this wasn't you yesterday morning, because it was a big deal. It's okay, right? But if she casually mentioned to you one time, like if you guys are talking, she's like, oh yeah, one time in college, I hurt my foot running in high heels. And then you go out and find that picture or something, it's gonna come across creepy,
Absolutely.
All right. Rapid fire question number 3. This will be the last rapid fire question, because then there's definitely something important I want to address in a second. Rapid fire question number 3. What should be a guy's benchmark for getting physical on the first or second date, right? Because obviously we both know, and anybody who knows us know, we always say to go for it. But what is the benchmark in terms of how far is he trying to go? Does he go for the good night kiss? Like what is your general? What do you tell a client in terms of a client who's kind of nervous about how far to try to take it on the first or second date? Yeah.
Absolutely. That is a tough thing, especially in this era, this day and age. No one wants to be creepy. No one wants to make a woman. No guy watching this is watching this because they want to be the next guy who's getting Me Too'd on Twitter or whatever else. Because they don't want to give women that experience. But at the same time, obviously, yeah, like there has to be some physical intimacy. Everyone knows that, like, if you don't do anything, that's how you end up in the friend zone. That's how she goes home and she's like rational. Okay, like no, like I just didn't feel it. So where is that line? How do you sort of like split the difference there? And for me, it's all about reading a woman's boundaries, right? That and I'll just give a quick example with my current girlfriend. We didn't kiss until our third date, right? I liked her, so I kept going out with her. In my mind, I was like, well, eventually, we're gonna get together, so I'm in no rush. Like, the more we hang out, the more she's gonna like me. And again, whether that's true or not doesn't matter. Like, I believe it, and any guy watching this should have that same belief. You should believe that, like, okay, the more this woman sees me, the more she's gonna like me either way. So while I always tried to kiss her on like every single date we went on, when she turned her cheek or she didn't go for it or whatever, I didn't make a big deal about it. I actually just made it into a joke. I'd be like, oh yeah, don't worry, like, I get it. Like, this date, a little underwhelming, but our next date, I'm going to blow your mind and we're totally going to kiss. And she would laugh, or I'd be like, oh, you're right. Like, we can't kiss yet. We haven't had a proper courtship. I don't even know what your favorite animal is. I would just throw these little lines afterwards just to show her that I wasn't butthurt. I didn't care. So for any guy watching, absolutely, yes, you should try to initiate some physical intimacy. And that's different for every guy, right? For some guys, that might just be, touching a woman for the first time, just touching her, on the back or whatever, or giving her a high five or something like that. But and then there are other guys that maybe are thinking, okay, like, how do I take this girl home or whatever? And that's for each guy to decide. We're not here to tell you exactly, every time you need to kiss her or every time you need to do this. But what we are going to say is that definitely you should initiate some kind of what I call intimate contact. Like I said, that could be as benign as touching. That could be as much as inviting a girl home with you. So the better you get at reading women, the better you're going to know, okay, like this is what's appropriate here. But regardless, whatever you do, like, do something, and then however she responds, so much of how she's going to remember it isn't whether she kissed you or not. It's going to be how you responded. Like I said, I'm with my girlfriend to this day. And I tried to kiss her, on 3 dates that she didn't want to kiss me. And the thing was, with a lot of guys on that first date, when she turned her cheek or she didn't kiss them, they would have gotten butthurt. They would have got angry. They would have got defensive. They would have got apologetic. They would have lost confidence. They would have reacted in a lot of other ways. And then they would have been like, well, she must have not liked me because she didn't kiss me. I don't look at it like that. I look at it like, okay, I'm going to try. If she, pumps the brakes a little bit, I'm just, it's no big deal. Like, next date or another time. So that's the way that I would approach, crossing that boundary between, okay, we're talking, we're having fun, and now let's start, as a 80 song goes, let's get physical, and physical can be in a lot of different things. And again, like I said, I don't want to tell guys every time every time you should go for the kiss, because like, again, we have clients, I know guys that, are religious or whatever. And for them, like, even holding a girl's hand, like that's a big deal to them. But if that's where you think that, like, that's going to take it to the next level, like, try it, and don't push it on her. If she doesn't go for it, you don't have to, don't get butthurt, don't get defensive, don't get angry, don't get sad. Just play it off. In the back of your mind, be like, well, you know what? That's fine. She's just not comfortable with this yet. But the more she gets to know me, the more she's going to like me. So let me just make sure that she sees that I'm not affected by it, that it's no big deal. I'm not going to make her feel weird or awkward about it. And then just move forward. Because that's a funny thing. Guys make it awkward, and then they think it's an awkward moment, but they made it awkward. Like, it doesn't have to be awkward,
Yeah, definitely. Funny. I know your girl and mine, and mine made me wait about three dates too before I got the full kiss in. And it was the same thing. I just I'd go in to get the cheek, and I just and it didn't like affect me at all. Similar to what you said, because you have this attitude of like, listen, like, I know things are going well, and if you let it affect you, that's when, if all of a sudden, that's what happens. I don't want to go too much into the inner game aspect of it, but you brought up a good point. It's like, if all of a sudden a girl turns her cheek and then you start playing defense, right? All of a sudden you're like, shit, now if I try again, and that I think that's what happens. And they actually kill attraction because they overreact to something like that. And they start playing defense and instead of continuing with the offense. But I did want to tell guys, because you and I have a special free class called The 4 Elements of Attraction, How to Create Attraction on Command, which we host live. We're going to be hosting one. There will be a link under this video, or you can see the link, where we're going to dig really deep into this. Because, everybody that has followed us over the years, they've always heard me say that when it comes to creating attraction fast in a woman, there's nobody that I've seen do it better than you consistently, right? And with a variety of different women, and I've seen it in person. And I know, like we mentioned at the very beginning of this, over the past, before you met the girl you're with now, you had quite a lot of not only Tinder dates, but before that, when you were living in New York, you were just going out all the time and just getting a whole lot of practice. And you kind of condensed it down, and we referenced a little bit of it in the beginning of how there's these elements, right? And if there's too much of one element, for instance, you could wind up in the friend zone. If there's too much of a different element, you could become the creep. If there's too much of another element, there's all these mistakes that guys are making without realizing it. And we're going to do a class where not only is Rob going to teach you the 4 elements, but he's going to break down example after example for each one. We kind of glanced over a lot of it in this one, but in this class, what Rob's going to do is he's going to tell you the topics, how to flirt, how to create a deep connection, right, with a woman. He's going to tell how to assert. We talked about a little bit right now, going for it. Well, how do you go for it? How do you assert your masculinity with a woman, right? How do you respect her boundaries? How do you, all of these things, we're going to go deep into this in this free class. And I highly recommend watching it. Any final notes you want to tell them about the class or why they should attend?
Just exactly like you said, Bobby, like this idea of balance. So often, guys, whenever we make videos like this, people be like, well, I have a friend, and there's an exception to the rule, there's the exception to the rule. And when you understand how the system works and how the different elements balance each other, you'll understand all those exceptions to the rule. Because sometimes, you see things that don't make sense to you, or something that works that you never thought would work does. But what you don't see is that there's probably a counterbalance, that something else happened before that, or immediately after that made that behavior attractive. So when you understand that, what's awesome about it is that it allows you to kind of just be yourself, do what, kind of live your life. You don't need to make like these dramatic lifestyle changes. You don't have to pretend you're something you're not. But by understanding this, okay, like this is kind of the way I am. I'm like, this type of guy. Like for me, I was like, I'm an introvert, and I'm this, I'm that, I'm hyperactive, whatever it is. And then I understood, okay, this is how I balance it. This is what I have to be cognizant of on a date. And it's kind of just like when you start seeing that, it's like seeing the Matrix, and you start understanding how to present yourself in the most attractive way, because you're just taking everything you do naturally and you're balancing it out so that you're always coming off attractive.
I'm really looking forward to it. So guys, if you have a question or a topic or something that you want us to clarify in this upcoming masterclass, leave a comment below with your specific question, and we'll try to tackle it in the class. Also, there's a registration link. Like I said, the class is completely free. I think there's going to be enough space for maybe 500 to 1,000 people to join it. And we will take questions. So leave your questions below, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can in the actual class. So Rob, thank you for joining us. As always, great time, and talk soon, man.
All right.